Can't believe I'm saying this, but dystopia warning, obviously. Don't worry, it's not related to the new lot, no. It's the residual effects of the last lot. You know, their corruption is lingering like a dank fart in a lift. But there's some of it that is very important that I think that you're going to need to know about and be aware of over the coming days. This is Boris Johnson's article that was released the other day. As you can tell, the proofreading at the Daily Mail is spot on. I think they're all too busy, you know, and preoccupied with trying to cover their tracks because press reform is looming over the hill. And I'm going to look forward to seeing them taken out. Boris Johnson printed this the other day, and the only reason I'm telling you about it is because he made the mistake of posting it on Twitter. And I live for roasting Fred Westminster. It felt like old times. Starmer's majority is built on sand. It's a mile wide and an inch deep, said Boris Johnson. To which I replied, you're a mile wide and an inch deep, usually in someone else's wife. Think I won the popular vote this time, Johnson. I'm not usually the kind of person that gives myself a clap back, but I think I deserve one for that. But no, the thing that I need to tell you about that's quite urgent relates to Bad-Enoch's seat. Yeah, and it's so fresh that it's not even being reported on yet. Channel 4 News is currently gathering the intel on this one. It came from Channel 4's chief correspondent, Alex Thompson. As I told you the other day, there was a massive problem with postal votes going out in the general election. 120 constituencies were affected. But Kemi Badenoch's one is particularly interesting. She was elected with a majority of 2,610. Right? But 2,600 postal ballots didn't go out because of a mix-up. And Kemi Badenoch was like, oh no, they haven't gone out. I didn't know that. Now what happened here was that the Reform candidate was disowned. I don't know why, I don't know who it was. Probably said something massively racist like all the others. So they were disgraced and removed. But Labour have 21 days to push for a rerun in this constituency. And if there was a new Reform candidate and a major tactical voting campaign, which I'd be very happy to help with, she could be ousted. And if she's ousted, she can't run as leader. And she wouldn't be able to stand as an MP in any leadership contest until this was all resolved. And we know that the Tories are in the process of trying to cobble together some form of something resembling organisation since they got absolutely shagged over a barrel in the general election. And we know that they're doing it quickly because they're scared of reform. I don't know why, because they are basically reform. Now this is currently underway. I would keep an eye on Channel 4. I mean, they're one of the very few news broadcasters that I actually trust. And another reason for me to have to give you a dystopia warning is the BBC. Who knew that an organisation whose former chair arranged an £800,000 loan for Boris Johnson, which is headed up by three Tories, would fail to be, you know, the guiding light of impartiality? Who knew? Who knew? Well, they released an interesting article today, didn't they? When I say interesting, it made my piss boil. Not just because of the headline, but because of the context and the content of what was in it. This was the first article that they released. Gloomy in lieu as fishermen reflect on Labour coup. Labour coup? What? This is the definition of a coup, right? A sudden, violent and unlawful seizure of power from a government. That's the commonly used political meaning. There is another meaning, which is successfully achieving something difficult, but that's virtually never used in the context of politics, ever. Coup d'etat. That's the one that's usually used in the context of politics, which is, you know, summons up the image of people forcefully taking over and overthrowing a government, you know, like an insurrection. And what was the context and the subject matter of this article? Lou Fisherman being all gloomy because Labour won it. A lot of people, a lot of pedants have been all over my post about this going, oh, there's two meanings. You're not being direct or truthful with people. Mate, one meaning is virtually always used when it comes to politics. Secondly, the context of the article is broadly negative towards the incoming Labour government. And a Labour government which won by a landslide democratically. And if it wasn't meant in a negative way, then why did the BBC change it? Now, I have to say the people featured in this article enraged me, yeah. They complained about how their businesses had been affected by Brexit, something that Cornwall overwhelmingly voted for, by the way, because they were lied to and conned, largely. You look around the port, it's dying, Mr. Chapman said. But I voted Conservative because it seemed the lesser of two evils. It was the Tories that did this to you, you spanner. And then we've got Jane Hall, who said that she was also sad about the decline and the loss of the local fish market, but she still voted for the Conservative MP. Fuck me. I don't know how they're managing this. It's like they've hexed people. Because against all logic and sense, people still vote against their best interests. Now, the BBC coverage of this election has broadly been incredibly negative. They're talking about a lower vote share, yeah, because loads of people voted tactically. Plus loads of people, didn't get their postal ballots. An estimated 10 million people voted via post, and 120 constituencies have been affected by problems with ballots going out. Earlier this week, The Telegraph reported that newly elected MPs could face having their victories challenged in the courts because of the chaos with postal ballots, and we still don't know how many people have been disenfranchised by voter ID, which is a big reason why a lot of people were voting via post. I mean, this was broadly one of the dirtiest elections that I've ever seen. The abuse that Jess Phillip faced was absolutely inexcusable. Men screaming in women's faces, tyres slashed, widespread intimidation tactics by the people that were supporting her rival, a Workers' Party of Britain candidate, who is alleged to be a misogynistic, transphobic, homophobe. Yeah. She narrowly won her seat, and it would have been frankly terrifying if he'd won, but he lost, and so did George Galloway, a man who is the visual representation of the horseshoe theory and a massive tosser to boot. He's essentially Nigel Farage in a different costume. Both he and Farage love Russia, and both are dangerous, hateful opportunists. Now, a lot of people say this came down to Palestine, right? Do you know what Jess Phillips did? She personally got one of the first orphaned children out of Gaza and settled in the UK with one of his family members. And the man that got to have his relative come from Gaza had lost most of his family due to the indiscriminate bombing. That's what real action looks like. Shabana Mahmood also faced similar abuse and intimidation tactics. They love going after women, don't they? Also important to note that vile misogyny is not limited to one particular ethnic group or religion. It's prevalent everywhere. And we have the last government to partly thank for that. I faced a lot of backlash in the last couple of days, mostly from people that also left-wing, that really hate the fact that the Tories lost, despite me being absolutely not tribal and advocating for tactical voting. So progressive, isn't it? What it comes down to is the fact that they hate that women have a platform or a voice. Tough shit. I'll be back with some positive news shortly about the new Labour cabinet. Don't know about you, but that just brings me a massive sense of relief that we've got the grown-ups back in charge. And that will piss off the hard right and the hard left. But they're the ones who are actually two cheeks of the same arsehole, aren't they? But neither I or the new Labour government are going anywhere, so